What's the old adage they would say to kids, like, don't
shit where you eat?
Well, that is one of them. That wasn't where I was going, but
I don't know. What is the old adage?
Where they say you don't want to eat,
before you
go swim. Isn't it like 20,
30 minutes before you swim?
Right. Isn't that a thing? See? So
I think that's
a thing.
BS.
Probably, right?
Well, see, that's a perfect example of some stupid rule that quote-unquote science proved. I don't know. Who did science prove that? Or did someone's mom say that 200 years ago and it's stuck?
It's stuck. That's the thing, man. There's a lot of stuff that who knows how much that we consider normal.
Mm-hmm.
That is just something that people decided hundreds of years ago that was normal, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then I guess that would just make what is normal, Chad? You know.
It's a good question. We're getting awful philosophical here.
Speaking
Jared.
of which, did you hear that about the Washington has
Washington football team?
Yes.
Right? Oh man, ridiculous. Yeah, absolutely.
Have you seen?
Ridiculous.
There's this one. I saw this on Twitter. There's this one guy that's like, I think they should just stick to it. And it was generally
right.
I don't even remember where I saw.
You know
this.
what's funny though is I saw a couple people online. I think maybe even on Twitter that said, well, their argument is there are a lot of soccer clubs that are that city and then football club.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean?
The jersey's just all white,
and that's hilarious.
And it's Washington football team just in normal print, like Arial, a Washington football team brought to you by Washington Football. And it's just look at the jersey.
It's just a plain white jersey. That looks like something you'd see in like a practice jersey for like a high school team or something. Oh, that is great.
And this is the logo, funny.
just white and says Washington football team.
Just a white background in black lettering.
What would be even funnier to see that would be if all those fonts were Comic Sans. That
would just be trolling. That's just straight up trolling.
That is true.
I think this is brilliant though. And you know what? Honestly, I think most mascots are kind of stupid. I think the idea of mascots is kind of stupid. Are we the only country that really does mascots like we do? I mean, we can't be.
No. Like Bayern Munich has like the bear.
Dude.
I forget its name. Yeah.
So we were watching Formula One.
Are there some mascots for Formula One?
There's one that I can think of, and this is in Mexico. We were watching this last year, and during like the winning celebration, look at that big insect on. Is that a grasshopper on the?
Yeah, that's a grasshopper.
Wow, that thing's large,
big boy.
Anyway, so we were watching. Like the winning sort of celebration where they're all on the podium and stuff, and there is this sort of, I guess you call him a mascot. He wears this like a racing suit, and he's like a fun guy.
He's like dancing
and
around,
he's getting into pictures, taking selfies with people. So he's on the podium with the winners, like in Sebastian Vettel's face, who I think might have been first that race. And when they were like taking pictures with all the people that were on the podiums, there's a shot of Sebastian Vettel pushing him out of the picture.
The mascot guy.
Yeah.
That is hilarious. That's great.
And it's just like this guy like running around. And I remember we were watching, we're like, who is this guy?
Right.
Get out of here.
Honestly,
no one cares about you.
Actually, Jared, I would argue
but
mascots.
Apparently he's like very well known if you're a Mexican.
Okay.
Formula One fan, or if you pay attention.
But see, that's the thing. I think mascots actually are more international than we would think. I think it's huge in America for sure, and I think we probably have the biggest amount of mascots probably.
Right.
Like, I can't imagine. I don't know.
The most mascots per capita.
Right. Probably. I mean, with all. Well, first of all, because we have school sports. Every school has a mascot.
Oh, right.
Every college, every university has some type of mascot, and they probably have numerous sports teams, right?
And there's so many colleges that we don't even really know about.
Right. D3, private colleges, religious colleges, all sorts of different ones. But my point is, I remember too in the Czech Republic, Pirati Chomutov, which was the local hockey team in my town, they had this creepy looking mascot. I forget the guy's name, but it had it was like I think it was like Picaroon or something was the mascot's name.
I think it would be brilliant for Washington, and this is apparently Washington football team is their name on like their social media now. But apparently that's the interim name until they think of an actual name.
Right.
But I really think it would be great if they just stuck with Washington football team.
Yeah.
the football teams.
It sets them apart. It sets them apart in a way. It's kind of funny. You know, every other team's like the Detroit Lions, Pittsburgh Steelers, Washington football team.
And their home jerseys would be just be those plain white ones with black lettering, and then the away ones would just be the
black with
opposite.
White ones. Yeah,
black.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No, dude, to make it even more boring, you have one that's white and black, and then you have one that's either brown or gray. Just like gray, like an ugly kind of monotone gray. Like that old, like kind of old dad, like workout shirt, sweater, gray. You know what I'm talking about.
I'd get on board with gray, not brown. Brown's almost a little too interesting.
Too much, yeah. Gray though, that would be funny. Washington football team. That is just hilarious, though. That's too funny.
And I mean, I guess do they need a mascot? Would they need a mascot still, or would they?
Yes, or you would have a mascot. Washington football team, listen up right now.
Part of the joke is not foregoing the mascot,
right? Well, here's our mascot, dude.
Okay.
So they're the Washington football team. What's your mascot going to be? It's going to be a football. Some type of a football
that's a good point.
Character, you know? You have a goofy football with eyes.
There you go.
You know, and little goofy arms with some gloves, you know? Boom. Washington football team, get at us, untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com. We'll give you some great mascot ideas.
You know who does? Things like this is what reminds me that I need my drops.
Oh, that's true. That is true. We just kind of got into it today, Jared.
You know who does mascots well, even though I still don't like I don't dislike mascots. I just don't think they're as necessary as I feel like people make them seem like.
Right.
And especially like these racist ones that people are getting rid of. People seem way too connected to these characters.
Right. Yeah, who cares? Like Washington Redskins, who cares?
It's
like,
the same team.
Yeah.
And it's like teams change all the time also.
Right.
And you don't own them.
Right.
Anyway.
Like fun fact, Michigan State University used to be called, do you know?
The Michigan N-words?
No. Michigan Agricultural College. So they were MAC.
Michigan. That's Michigan State, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
I did know that.
Yeah, Michigan
actually.
Agricultural College. And so they changed their name, right? To
I didn't know the
State.
name was changed. I knew they were known for. I knew they had a very.
But I think they also had a different
program, and they're known for it.
Right, but they also had their mascot. I think was the Aggies for agriculture, and I don't even know what it was. Who knows? It could have been a piece of corn with a smiley face. You know, I don't know. But yeah. Anyway, sorry. What were you trying to say?
I don't even remember now.
You were talking about mascots and.
Oh, you know who does mascots well?
Yeah, who?
And I don't. Is Philadelphia.
Philadelphia Eagles, Philadelphia.
No, not the Eagles. They have the Flyers has Gritty. Remember Gritty?
Oh
the new,
God, yeah,
Gritty the new
is
one.
A goofy looking.
And
thing.
then their baseball team. What's their baseball team called?
Philadelphia.
Not the Sixers. What's their baseball team
called?
What
is Philadelphia's baseball team?
This is embarrassing. We should know this.
The Phillies, man.
Oh,
Philadelphia
the Phillies,
which is a cool name.
Their mascot is the Fanatic, which is just that
this
ridiculous
weird,
sort of character.
He's green,
Gritty-esque.
Right?
Yeah.
I wonder if they hired the same dude, the same person to
the same guy
to do that.
The same guy that did like the first Spy Kids or something.
No kidding. Yeah, that seems rather
those
fitting.
Fooglies or whatever they were called.
Yeah, those
things used to creep me out.
They're kind of weird looking.
Yeah. But I did love that movie.
The Phillies.
Shout out to Spy Kids.
Right, the Phillies. Speaking of shout outs, let's get into some shout outs. Why don't we?
Also follow us on Untranslatable Podcast.
Absolutely.
Instagram,
Absolutely.
All that stuff.
All right, so this is a crazy story, Jared. So there was an apartment fire in France, and this was in Grenoble, and there were 2 children that were in a 3-story apartment that caught fire, and there were a bunch of people, just people in the public, who stood below the apartment and caught these 2 children from a 3-story fall.
Wow.
So I think this is a crazy story. So here we go. So 2 young brothers have been saved from an apartment, and this is from The Guardian, by the way, if you're curious. 2 young brothers have been saved from an apartment fire in the French city of Grenoble after dropping about 10 meters, which is 33 feet for all of our Americans out there. I mean, 33 feet is definitely enough to kill you, I would say.
Who were these people that caught them? Were they like some strong men?
No, I think these were just, it seems like they were just bystanders, I think.
Would you volunteer yourself up to be like, if no one else was stepping up to the plate, would you be like, I'll do it, I'll catch you.
See, that's
throw your kid at me.
So see, that's the thing, Jared. I think
from the 3rd story, that's high.
That's high up. Here's the thing. I think a lot.
I wouldn't jump out of that.
Right. Here's the thing.
I guess I probably would if there was a fire. But.
Right. Well, the thing is, Jared, I think a lot of people have a knee-jerk reaction to say, "Oh yeah, of course I would do it." It's very easy to make the tough guy macho.
I feel like my knee-jerk is, of course I wouldn't.
Mine is I don't know.
Sure, that's true. Also, who else is there?
Right, but I think if there's enough people, I would be happy to be one of those many people to try to try to catch the children. Yeah, but I think this is amazing. And these people are risking their health and their lives too. Obviously, in France, it's probably, I bet you the laws are different. But I know in the U.S., if you try to help somebody and they get injured, they can take you to court. And I'm not saying they'll necessarily always win, but that's going to cause you. I'm not saying people shouldn't help people. That's not my message here, but I'm saying that's why some Americans think twice about it, and it's a shame.
I guess so.
It really is a shame because you've heard stories, horror stories of people trying to resuscitate someone. And then, you can break somebody's rib if you're trying to resuscitate them.
It's also kind of like the same thing as people being like afraid to call 911 because it's like, I mean, they're like, I need help, but I'm also afraid to escalate it to where I think, they could take it. Well,
and the sad thing is, too, the sad reality about calling 911 in the States or calling an emergency vehicle is it's expensive if you don't have insurance.
Yeah.
I'm not sure with my current health coverage if someone called an ambulance for me, I bet you I would have to pay for the majority of it. That's going to be easily over $1,000, and a lot of people don't just have $1,000 sitting around to just throw away for an ambulance ride.
Yeah.
It's too bad. But anyways, back to our story, our shout out.
That happened in the U.S. too. A couple. During this pandemic at some point, I believe. I don't remember exactly where it was.
There was a burning building. People caught, that's awesome.
There was. Yeah. I think it was. Did you see in Detroit this happened? The woman that lit the car on fire.
Oh my gosh,
and it blew
such
up.
a crazy video. Yeah.
That video is like the explosion almost kind of looked cartoonish in the way she blew back.
She blew back.
I'm surprised how quickly she just got up.
Me too. I wonder what kind of long-lasting health effects she might have. Because
I saw a picture of her. The burns actually didn't look that bad, but it seemed like you can get a concussion from
burns
something
are
like that
painful,
happening.
Though, man. I mean, even minuscule getting burned is a different kind of sensation.
That's true.
I think than any other type of pain I've personally experienced.
That's true. I have an aloe plant in my house. Works wonders.
Yep. I have some aloe stuff for sunburns and other types of burns as well. But yeah, that's that video though about that woman who did that was crazy. Yeah, what she does for our listeners out there who haven't seen the video, I think a lot of people probably have seen it. I've seen it quite a few times on different social media sites.
It's some sort of revenge or something.
Right. So it's this woman. I believe it's a woman, right? It looks like a woman.
Yeah.
She is pouring gasoline into a black Jeep, I think.
Yeah,
right?
Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Yeah, it looks like a nice Jeep.
Yeah, it does.
And I think she throws a Zippo in there, or she throws a match, or
some sort of fire. Yeah.
And then she throws it, and then you just see her head go back, and does she hit the car behind?
She gets blown into the car behind her.
Right, and she falls to the ground, and then she gets up, and then she starts to walk away, and then she runs back and grabs the gas can, and keeps going.
At least she remembered. I mean, it is kind of impressive that she had the wherewithal to remember to get the evidence. Because I feel like clearly she was probably out of it. And then after they showed a picture of the car, and it was obviously it was toasted.
That's terrible though. But I also wonder though too, doesn't she could probably face some serious criminal charges, right?
Oh, there's an article. I mean, I don't have it up, but there's an article that she did. They found her, and she.
Of course, they found her. I mean, how stupid are some people, Jared? Like, how can you? Sorry to be so negative during our shout out segment here, Jared, but
I'm with you.
Right.
There's the thought process. I'm like, there's no thought process here.
Right. And what good does that actually do?
I know.
Like, I understand being upset with people, being angry with people. We've all been there. But lighting up someone's car on fire
is a bad idea.
And nowadays there are going to be cameras.
Especially if you don't know how to do it. Clearly you don't know how to do it too.
And she did it. Not that I'm advocating that anyone does this, but she did it in broad daylight. Not wearing any type of, no facial nothing.
I mean, she had her hood up.
Oh, that's true. I guess the blowback, I think, blew the hood off.
Did it?
I think
didn't
so.
even notice that.
Because I thought I remember seeing her hair tied up.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember now.
Maybe. Okay.
Our
it was really kind of shocking the first time you see it. Then you got to see it like 6 more times. Right. But it was really shocking. I was like, oh my gosh.
Right.
That's like a movie.
Some of those, I love some of those videos. There's a video on YouTube of Seth Rogen on Eric Andre's show. That show is just ridiculous. Hannibal Buress. Are you a fan of Hannibal Buress, or is he not really your cup of tea?
I like him. I haven't I haven't watched any of his stand up recently because he just came out with a new special. Actually,
I think it's on YouTube.
Yeah, but I used to like his podcast, but he doesn't really do it anymore.
Right.
But,
he was on Joe Rogan. That was a good.
Yeah,
good
yeah. I
episode.
always
That was
enjoy listening to him.
Did you see his jacket?
Yeah,
his jacket was
because
was fly.
he was wearing that because he said he's considering moving to I believe it was Ghana.
Right.
Because they have some sort of program where they make it easy for Black Americans to come in.
That's
not
cool.
easy, but they maybe it is easier. I would say.
Right. Sure.
Like they provide a path out.
Right. A lot of countries have done that for different ethnic people.
Well, like European
Germany,
countries have done that for a while because I know in Ireland it's super easy to, or like if you have any sort of Irish family and you're American, it's pretty easy to get an Irish passport.
Is it? Okay, I didn't. I got some. Well, actually, I don't have very much Irish blood. I got more Scottish blood.
Is that where you're from? Most of your family, Scotland.
On my mom's side, a lot of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is Bowsley Scottish?
No, it used to be French.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, dropping the last name on the podcast, Jared. I don't think I've ever dropped your last name, have I?
I
feel so naked. No, I'm just kidding.
I feel like we probably have, but now that you put it that way, I feel so like I broke some rule.
Broke
that we had
all the rules, Jared. The unspoken. No. What were we talking about though before all this? We've gone off on numerous.
I don't know.
Oh, Eric Andre show. Yeah, we were talking about that video of that woman that
exploding when she was lighting her.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyways, it's the whole point of me mentioning the Eric Andre show was that there's a scene where Seth Rogen he goes, so can I plug my show? Like, that's why celebrities go on talk shows. They have a new movie, a new book. They want to talk about it. They want to plug it. know. And so Eric Andre goes, all right, time for the Velcro stunt. And so he puts on this Velcro suit and he's supposed to run and jump and, be stuck on this board. Right. And Seth Rogen's like, didn't Letterman do this or something? And anyways, what's so funny about it, though, is he puts on the Velcro suit and he runs and he jumps on the little trampoline and he goes to stick on the suit. And obviously there's nothing behind it. So he just falls.
Oh, no.
And the first time I saw it, it was one of those things where I saw it and I'm like, oh my God, like what? Like makes you jump a little bit. But then I watch it a couple of times and then I'm just cracking up.
Did it like look painful? With Seth Rogen, how did he respond to that?
I'm sure it probably hurt a little bit. Well, after he fell, he gets up and Eric Andre gets up. He's like, "Oh my God, are you all right?" And he goes to commercial, of course. But that's the thing with that kind of comedy.
I was gonna say that is great comedy though. That is hilarious.
Which is I think Joe Rogan even reposted the video of that woman that lit the car on fire.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the same concept essentially. Right. Why everyone gets so much, in a weird way, sort of sick joy out of watching a woman explode.
Sure.
Also because
she doesn't explode, but
well, that's true. Also because
that would be terrible.
Blown back by an explosion. Right. Also because it is sort of like a not a you deserve it. I hate to say you deserve it, but it's like you shouldn't be doing this.
Right. Oh, definitely not. Well, Jared.
Yes.
Anyway, shout out to all the people who helped those two boys though. Out of that building, we went off on quite a few tangents, but yeah. Anyways, I think you know what time it is, Jared.
I do.
That's right, people. It is time for some untranslatables, which are idioms, phrases, axioms, adverbs that are not easily translated into English on a one-to-one basis, meaning you can't word for word translate it. And I'm going to start us off today, Jared, because I have some interesting Argentinian ones, but I also have a German one that I want to give you first today. I'm going to scoot this over so we know Jared's not peeking. Here we go.
You have the old person size font.
That is true.
Your font is huge. It looks
gigantic.
like my dad's cell phone.
It's because I'm sitting back here. I'm relaxing with you, Jared. I don't want to have to, squint to read it. So here we go. Wie seine Westentasche kennen.
How you know your something bag.
Tasche can also be pocket.
Oh, pocket. How you know your something pocket?
Your I guess if you literally translate it, it would be your vest pocket, but I think it's actually your jacket pocket.
Okay. Oh, it's like it like the back of your hands.
Ding, ding, ding. Very good. Very, very good.
Okay.
Yep.
I wasn't prepared because I'm never right. I wasn't prepared. Now, My first one is Cantonese, and I don't need to pull it close because mine is professional level font. Actually, the font of someone that has proper prescription glasses. Actually, it is kind of far away. I'm not gonna lie. It's Cantonese. Where do they speak Cantonese?
Generally, southern parts of China. I believe also
Hong
Taiwan
Kong?
and Hong Kong. Yes.
Okay.
And probably also Macau.
Okay. Okay. I don't know much about Macau, but I'm not gonna get into that.
We could do an episode at some point. Macau's a place I've always wanted to visit.
You know a lot about Macau?
A little bit. I almost took a job there 2 years ago.
Okay.
So I know bits and pieces. Anyways, what's your Cantonese?
Where is Macau?
Macau is in the southern part. You have to take a ferry to get there. So I believe.
Is it like an island of some sort?
Yeah, I believe you. I don't remember if you go through Hong Kong or how you get there, but I think you have to go Hong Kong.
It's like off the bottom of China.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Chad's dog Prudy had to find the optimal lying down position.
That's true. She probably got hot laying in the sun.
My first Cantonese untranslatable is Guai Am Nigan. Nagan. NGA -AHN. How would you say that? NGA with a little accent. AHN.
Probably. I think the accent's probably a tone. So it's a falling tone. And falling tones. That was actually rising. So here's the issue with when you try to pronounce tones. And I've learned this.
I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Well, not only that. No, just kidding. No, the thing with tones is and I noticed I was doing this in China, so this is how I know about this, Jared.
Okay.
So when you ask someone about a word you're saying, usually in English we raise our voice, right? So if you don't know a word, you're like, oh, tomato, right? You raise it.
That's our question,
right? But if you raise it, then you're speaking a raising tone. Mm-hmm. So you can't do that. So you have to. So what was it again? It was NGA with a falling tone AHN.
Yep. Okay. So 2 A's in there, and the second one's just a normal A. The first one has the falling tone. And the falling means that it goes.
So I would say Nagan.
Nagan. Okay. A ghost covers one's eyes.
Ghost covers one's eyes.
There are actually a couple meanings to this, but they're all kind of similar.
I have to say, I love this one because it is. I always love the untranslatables you bring, Jared, that provoke a lot of imagery. Right.
I have a whole list of these Cantonese ones that I'm going to keep coming back to because there are a lot of great ones.
I'm sure there are.
They're actually. It's funny that you say imagery because. Let's talk about. But I just want to show you this site,
okay?
Because even the site has like little pictures next to all of the untranslatables, and they're so nice to look at. Found myself just scrolling.
Are they like
through
animated or are they like old fashioned?
I think they're like old. I don't remember. Actually.
Cool.
We'll see. But anyway,
I've seen a couple sites for Chinese idioms that also had that old drawing. You know, they'll have a drawing that accompanies the meaning of it.
I feel like the colors were more modern, but the imagery was more sort of old fashioned. I don't know. We'll see in a second. My computer's slow as fuck, so let's first focus on the. Sorry for that.
So a ghost.
A ghost covers one's eyes.
A ghost covers one's eyes. So is this to be? Is this like a blessing in disguise?
No.
Okay.
No.
Ghost covers. All right, give me an example.
So, let's say like
Is it positive or negative?
I'd say it's more. It's not negative, but it's. Think about it. So if a ghost is covering your eyes,
is it to be fooled, to be tricked?
Kind of.
Okay.
It's like you're it's like oh my gosh, in order to get this done, I'm gonna have to do this, and do this, and
oh, is
my
it
life
to procrastinate?
No. My life is so terrible, but it's like, oh, you don't realize that I don't know. It's to fail to see something, or it's like to fail to see something that's like right in front of you.
Oh, okay. So we would say it's like right in front of your nose.
Yeah, it's kind of yeah.
Like
but I feel like it's a little deeper than that.
Okay.
For some reason. Also, another meaning of it could be a Freudian slip.
Oh, interesting. A ghost is covering your eyes. Okay, and a Freudian slip, for those of you who don't know, that's when you will say something that generally has some type of kind of sexual or could be a dirty meaning, When you oh wow. Sorry, I'm going to pull the old
I'm showing
here.
Chad the website. It has all these cool little images. Look at that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, lots with the ghost too. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like these would be something you would see in like maybe a kid's book.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, I can
Looks
imagine
kinda
that.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool though. Give me another Cantonese one.
All right. I wasn't even planning on doing those, but I wasn't. But now that I have them up, sure, I'll give you another one. Okay. Seong san juk hai. There's a lot of tones in here that I'm definitely not.
I think one of those words was 3.
No, but I like where your head's at.
Okay.
To catch crabs on a hill.
To catch crabs on a hill.
Oh wait, or is it? Oh yeah. Okay. But there's also now it says nan song nan. Maybe there are 2 different ways you could say it.
Could be. I wonder if one of them maybe one of them's Cantonese. Could one of them be Mandarin?
Maybe that could be it. That could be it. I could imagine that.
And you said, what is it to catch crabs on a hill?
Yes.
Oh, is it? I mean, why would crabs be on a hill? They should be in the ocean, right? Why are crabs on a hill? Why?
Are there not mountain crabs? Do those not exist?
Are there? I don't think so. Are there?
I don't know.
Honestly, that sounds kind of terrifying, bro. Mountain crabs?
Crabs are the most like not the most harmless, but they're like for how sort of intimidating they look, they're pretty harmless.
That's true. Although I feel like big ones might be able to do some damage with those pinchers, couldn't they?
Maybe. Are there? I haven't seen.
I'm not a crab expert. I know it's hard to believe, but okay. So crabs. So crabs
to catch crabs on a hill.
Is it like
so if they're
something
not,
unexpected? I don't know.
So if you imagine there are not crabs on a hill, what do you think? How would you rate the? How would you rate the? How would you rate the task on a difficulty scale?
Oh, something's impossible.
Yeah, difficult, hard, harder than hard, almost impossible.
I like that one. Catch crabs on a hill.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Catch crabs on a hill.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it's more work. Yeah,
and they have
sense.
this great picture of this
gigantic crab.
Your fear that you were envisioning.
Yep. See, that's
giant crab on top of a mountain, like controlling it.
Right. All right. My last one for you today, Jared, is Argentinian Spanish, and it is estar al horno, and you could say estar al horno con papas.
Is it to have some sort of food?
So to be in the oven, and you could say to be in the oven with chips.
To be in the oven with chips. It's like you're getting me angry. Like, don't get me angry.
Okay.
I imagine
you're so close.
Someone's getting like worked up.
Okay. Okay. And what? So I imagine this a lot as like a parent.
Ooh, boy, you getting me crispy. That's what.
I like that one. That might have to be a new one. That might have to be a new drop right there, Jake. Can you say that one more time?
Ooh, boy. See, now I'm not an actor. See, now I'm ashamed. Ooh, boy, you making me crispy. Something like that.
Yeah, that's a good one right there. I feel like this one I picture, like a mom telling her child, you're in the oven.
Oh, it's like you're close. You're getting me close.
You
won't like me when I'm angry.
We have one that has to do with water.
You're not on the edge, but like
you're getting warm, Jared. You're getting warm.
Like don't do you like something about going to the deep end?
No.
I don't know. Listen.
You're in hot water.
You're in hot water.
Yeah,
yes.
You're going to be in trouble. You're in hot water.
Yes.
But, Jared, what's interesting is...
I mean, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
That connection right there.
Exactly. What's interesting, though, too, is... so I guess this usually means, obviously, as I said, someone who's in trouble, right? So you could say this when, for example, say you have a presentation for your work that's due tomorrow, and you start doing it like 30 minutes before you have to give the presentation. You could be like, oh man, like I'm going to be in the oven, like that, right? Like I'm in trouble. Or it can be when someone tells you, I think at least, where it's kind of like, where someone says like, you're in hot water, like you're in big trouble.
So it could also be used a lot in college.
Yes, and the interesting thing is, I guess, when you add the in addition to chips, it implies the situation is worse. So not only you're in the oven, but you're in the oven with chips, which makes sense, I guess, because think about it. If you put chips in the oven too long, what do? They burn.
Yeah.
So
there's not a big window on that. Like
right.
So, although, do you ever put chips in the oven just to crisp them up a little bit?
I haven't, but I might need to try that.
Sometimes I'll just sprinkle some cheese on some chips and throw them in the oven.
Right.
Or if I do like or even if you do like a hard shell taco, which is
Right. I realize I have one more untranslatable for us today.
Okay.
I forgot about.
Where is this coming from?
So there, a friend of mine, shout out to my friend Andrea, she told me about this Instagram page called, here, I can show you the page, Jared.
Can you follow it? Can you just follow it on our...
we follow it on our Insta.
Okay.
But it's called the Green Go Dictionary, which is kind of a play on words, like gringo, but Green Go Dictionary. At least that's the way I read it. But what it is these are Brazilian Portuguese phrases that basically they do a Brazilian version of what we do, Jared, which is actually I'll reach out to these people. I would love to, if I'm assuming they probably can speak English. Like the English is usually pretty quality on these posts. And I wonder if it'd be fun to talk to them. But anyways,
wow.
This untranslatable, Jared, is a última bolacha do pacote, which means the last cookie of the package.
The last cookie of the package?
Mm-hmm.
Is that like the... I mean, when I hear that, I think like the runt of the litter. But what does that even mean? But it's like you're always getting
the smallest, the weakest.
You're always getting like the
most insignificant.
Like the end piece of the loaf of bread, you're always getting like the short.
The butt, isn't that what they call it? The butt of the loaf.
You always
so this, I would say, is the opposite. This is the I'll give you an example, Jared.
Interesting.
So you do it.
Can you give me the literal one more time before you?
Yeah, to be the last cookie in the package.
Okay.
Yeah, the last cookie in the package. So for our listeners out there who don't know, I'm doing a little free plug here for Jared's other podcast. Jared does another podcast called the Millennial State of Mind podcast, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You do it with a friend of ours, Don. Mm-hmm. I've actually listened to some episodes. It's a pretty good podcast. You guys cover a lot of interesting topics. But if I wanted to be the last cookie in the package, Jared, I could say, you know what, Jared? I want to do our podcast this way. You know what? You just go do your Millennial State of Mind podcast. I'm the last cookie in the package. I'll do my own podcast.
Yeah, I'm the last cookie I'll do my own podcast.
And I will say to all of our listeners out here, I could not do a podcast without you. Without a doubt. Could not do this without you.
Yeah, that's why this is so confusing. No, I'm kidding. Is it like you're a lone ranger, essentially?
No, it means you think too highly of yourself.
Okay.
To be when you think you're like the last cookie in the package, because let's think about it. If you
mean
you're kind of the most important cookie in a way.
Right.
If you're the last cookie, like you have 4 or 5 people fighting over you, you're a very important cookie if you're the last cookie in the package.
So you're saying that like people want like they're only listening to the podcast because of me anyway. So
exactly, because I'm the last. Exactly,
I got you.
To think too highly of you, I just love that one. I was scrolling through a few days ago and I came across that and I was like, that is hilarious.
I mean that is perfect too because there even if you generally know that you can have the last cookie and it's yours, there is something about the last cookie. Like I feel like in my house when there are cookies, I always wait a little bit longer on the last one. Like
right, exactly.
I have one a day
exactly
for like a week, and then I'm like, I'm not gonna have one today. I'm gonna
right.
I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna wait till it's right, the right time to have a cookie.
Absolutely. Which I think leads us somehow in a weird way to
no,
our main segment today, which is what the Western world could learn from the East. And I think in the future we can obviously do and talk about what the East could learn from the West, because I think there's always room for improvement, no matter what country you're in, no matter what culture you live in. There's always good and bad, and so let's talk about some of that today, Jared.
Can I ask you first?
Yes.
What does Western and Eastern culture mean? What is that?
So to me, at least, that's a very important question. So to me, what Western and Eastern culture or life or any way you want to put it would be, West, I would say is Europe. And if we want to get a bit more liberal, we could even say certain parts of the very, very western parts of Russia over to the U.S. and Canada and even really, I would say South America is still in the West, right? Mm-hmm. All those cultures. I think American culture and South American culture probably has more similarities than American culture and maybe Korean culture, for example, in my opinion. Any of our listeners out there who disagree, please let us know, because I would love to hear other people's thoughts too on this. But anyway, so I would say East. When I think of East, I guess today we would be talking more about East Asia Pacific, at least in my experience, in some parts of Southern Asia. So places like East Asia Pacific would be places like China, Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam, Korea, Japan, places like that.
Yeah. When I was thinking about all this stuff, in my mind, I always just sort of substituted Western for or American for Western, and I'm like, but that's not really broad enough.
It's a very U.S. centric way to look at it.
Like when I would think of something, I'd be like, well, that's more just like an American thing. Is that really a Western thing? Quote
right,
unquote?
But I do think there are certain tenets of Western culture that are different than Eastern culture. I mean, if you look at the relationships, you look at work, you look at I think there's a lot of differences.
How did this split establish itself? This cultural split. Why is there this overall sort of there's different sort of families of splits, and there's like Europeans, Americans, Southeast Asians. What do you call there are either various cultures within Asia, obviously.
Right. Well, you have Central Asians, Central Asians too, which would be like your Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, a lot of places that a lot of Americans, it's not even on their radar.
Right.
Yeah. But I guess, well, first of all, I think the question you're asking is a great question, but I think you would need like a tenured anthropology professor to probably really be able to answer your question in depth than what I could do. But I guess what I would say would be, it's if you think about the way culture evolves through time, I think a lot of it has to do with the systems you have put in place. So the political systems you have, the societal norms. A lot of this, if you look like way back when, it came from tribes. Even Europe, these were tribes a long time ago, right? Same with Asia, and even within tribes in a similar region, there can be cultural differences, right? The way something is cooked, the way, clothing that people wear. So I think a lot of it just has to do with.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, you sent me a while ago. You sent me on Instagram that Asian drip. That Chinese people were walking outside, and I would say Asian style is very different than Western style.
Yeah. Or even things like different ways of I didn't even think about it, like having to prepare food over like history of your landscape,
right,
and what your landscape allows. Yeah, that's true.
And do you come from a country that's an agrarian society where it's mostly farming? Do you come from a more industrialized country? So that will contribute to the culture too. And I think the fact that a lot of Asian countries, I really don't like the term third world. I think developing is better than third world. And honestly, I think there are places in the U.S. that are developing. You look at pictures. I think I've seen pictures of places in Asia that are far more developed than places in the U.S. But anyways, I digress. My whole point here, Jared, is that that will affect the way you live your life and the way culture will be molded. If you live in an agrarian society where it's farming, or if you live in like a fast-paced city, right? I think the things that you get used to, the things you tolerate, the things that are normal or abnormal for you. And I think a lot of culture and society is what we deem normal. Yeah. And that's a whole nother conversation. You asked me earlier, what is normal?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I have a normal for me, you have a normal for you.
But I think if we didn't have the sort of fake agreement of what normal is, culture wouldn't exist.
Well, sure.
Because then everyone in the world would just be themselves.
Right. Well, but see, and the whole reason why I wanted to do this episode is with Asian culture, what I've experienced with Eastern and Western culture, generally speaking here, and we're painting a very broad brush today with this topic anyways, but I've seen that Asian cultures tend to be a lot more collectivist, meaning that they favor the good of the society or the collective more over the good of one individual, or they prioritize. They'll spend more money on infrastructure and a lot of different programs than other countries where individualism is more important, because why I don't need your government handout. I'm an independent person. I'm going to work. I think in America especially, there's this idea still from a lot of people where I don't want your government handout. I don't want your money. I'm going to be independent. I'm going to work for myself, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I think there are other countries where it's viewed differently. I will take that business loan because I want to, because the government realizes that a business loan will benefit, this business could benefit a lot of people.
You're saying like a business loan, quote unquote, in China?
Or different places in Asia, or even just if you look at how much money a lot of different countries in the East, like Japan, puts into like their trains. That's really, I don't know if it's a private run company, but I would assume it's probably not.
Yeah,
a lot of
not.
those big
and it's
countrywide,
probably subsidized in some
exactly.
some sort of the sense.
Exactly. Whereas look at our public transportation infrastructure in America. Right, I would consider America the West, but then if we look at Europe, European countries also are less. I would say America, if we looked at a spectrum of East and West, right? If we look at geographically and how we are culturally, so we have the U.S., and I would say we are very much more individualistic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we really value, that's why I think a lot of Americans are so liberal, is that they view, you can live your life how you want, and I think that's a very liberal viewpoint. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I agree with you, but that is also kind of like the false conservative narrative too, where it's like just like don't tread on me kind of thing. Just let me live my life.
Right.
So I think that's just sort of an American thing in general.
Right. Whereas if we look at Europe, I think Europe still has a lot of that social liberalism that we have here. With when I say social liberalism, I mean like. I think there are a lot of Americans now who don't oppose gay rights, for example.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a long way we have to go in the States. I'm not saying it's perfect here by any means.
Sure.
There's still a lot of problems. But just talking, as a whole here, so I would say U.S. is more individualistic. Europe, they value some individualism, but I think there's more collectivism in Europe, right? Then I think when you move even further east to, places like Korea, Japan, China, there's a lot of different Asian countries, even Indonesia. I notice a lot of it's about collectivism. You do I think family is more important. I think gender roles are different in Eastern cultures and Western cultures. I think gender roles are a bit more fluid in Western societies. And whether that's better or worse, you can make your own judgments and opinions. I'm not here to try to make anyone have their own opinions or think any type of way, but just what I've seen and what I've experienced. I think culture and society is very different in the East. I think we could learn from some of this collectivism and use it in America. And I think socialism is such a dirty word here. It really is. So, anyways,
you could see it in like the difference in like the COVID response too. In the U.S., it's like a full on "don't tell me what to do. Let me take the risk on my own. If people don't want to get sick, stay home." Kind of very individualistic. In a lot of European countries, in most European countries, they're very, what's the term where it's like they compliant, with like mask
they listen
laws
to the government
and stuff like that. However, in a lot of the European countries like Sweden or Germany, they are kind of still a little afraid to just shut down though fully, because a lot of those countries did not take full shutdown approaches, but they still have a more collectivist a culture in the sense where they're like, but we still will follow the the rules that doctors tell us,
exactly,
all the masks and stuff. And then there's, I would say, some of the more Eastern countries or Eastern cultures where they're quicker to adopt the like the contact tracing, the and it's sort of, I would say, from the American perspective, the more quote unquote invasive approach to but it does seem more effective if you can have as much information as possible. But I can also, as the American, be like, but why do you need so much information? How about we just all follow the rules?
Exactly.
But that doesn't happen.
Right.
And even I noticed I didn't realize this until recently, but in Europe, a lot of European countries, I know in Germany was one of them, but they were like fining people for like not following the mask rule and stuff. It's not just like here. It's
some governors here have started to do some things, but it's too late.
Yeah,
it's too late. They should have done this months ago.
Yeah.
But Yeah.
Did you see the president's tweet about wearing masks?
Of course I did.
It's like, how could even that was a farce.
Half-hearted, yeah.
And he's talking
Ridiculous.
about some say patriots love to wear masks.
Yeah.
And I'm
man.
the biggest patriot.
Right. Yeah.
And
Check out our episode though if you're curious about
I
patriots.
so wanted to comment on it, but I hate like commenting on the president
Right.
in general on social media, and
Right.
and so I didn't comment on it. But I was like, it's so funny how we were just had an episode about patriotism, and now he's trying to couch wearing a
Right.
mask as some form of patriotism, and follow me, the greatest patriot in American
it's
history.
ridiculous. If he really thought it was patriotic, he would have been wearing a mask from day one. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. But yeah, I would agree with you. The other thing that I think the West could learn from the East a little bit more is sharing food. Because when I was in China and Indonesia and Mongolia, even with my American colleagues, because most of them had lived in China or Asia for at least a few years. Most of them were older than me. I was one of the youngest fellows in China. And so the nice thing is they were so accustomed to sharing food and just doing the Asian thing by just, we get a bunch of different food at the table. We all split it in an equal way. Now, the only negative to that, obviously... And see this, but see, Jared, this is, I think, a very American thing.
Get your own thing,
right? And see, I had that same reaction when I first got to Asia, but dude, it's so much better, and I will tell you exactly why. It's because, one, obviously, you get to try so much more food. The amount of food I was able to try while I was in China for 6 months, I was in Mongolia for like a week and a half.
And to be fair, their portions are set up that way.
Exactly.
So doing it here in the U.S. is a little different because your portions are...
It's even too expensive and it's not tangible really here.
Even though they're big portions here, they're very sort of like set up towards the one person. Like really you get a lot of like French fries or mashed potatoes or whatever on the side, but like... but I also or like
think
Italian restaurants where they'll do that sometimes, or there'll be like large plates of pasta.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I think a lot of American food and Western food is so much heavier than Asian food. It's difficult.
Really?
I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, because a lot of Asian dishes, they're vegetables. I mean, what unless you have something that's fried, what stuff is really heavy.
Do they not eat a lot of fried stuff?
I mean, you can get a lot of fried stuff, but
but you can also not.
Exactly. So, and it really depends on just what you want to order. But but I just love the whole sharing food with one another. Obviously, now with COVID, it's a little different. But I still think you could still do it nowadays, like with your family.
Sure. People you live with.
But here's the other thing, Jared. Our reality in America is different than the reality for most other places. Like I know at least from friends I've talked to in South Korea, a lot of stuff. Some places are still, I think, on some, lockdowns or not. Maybe lockdowns is the wrong word, but they're still taking precautions.
Some restrictions.
Right. That's much better. Thank you. Mm-hmm. But a lot of other places where they are, opening up restaurants again and people are
chilling.
Yeah. But the thing with sharing food is, I think, as long as you could have a communal spoon or something that you're using for the different dishes, I think that's the better way to do it, because at least when I was in China, it was
still be a bunch of people touching the same spoon, though.
Right, but so here's the thing, though. If you're using chopsticks,
I believe is
if you're using chopsticks, right, and they're using these spoons, right? Yes, you're still sharing the same spoon, but I think if you either wash your hands, or if you, as long as you're not eating with your hands,
there's definitely a way to do it. There's definitely a way to do it. For
exactly.
Sure.
That's my whole point. So, but I think that's one thing that it's just not really common here, and I can't imagine many Americans. I can imagine maybe some Europeans being okay with it, because I think Europeans as a whole travel outside of their countries more than Americans do. One, because it's a little easier in Europe, because it's, you can, if depending on where you live, it could be a 20, 30-minute ride and you're in a different country.
Right.
Whereas here it's a little different. But
I've been thinking in at least a lot of my travels in Europe, they're kind of less sharey too.
Right.
Like maybe they'll like have like a shared, I don't know, starter salad or something for the table, but like a lot of countries I've been, you're still sort of, it's not expected to do like the quote unquote family style, as they call it. Why do they call it family style? I guess that makes sense.
It makes 100% sense.
Yeah, because your parents make a bunch of food.
Yeah,
and
eat it all together.
You take it. Okay, that's fair. That makes perfect sense.
But yeah, so I think that's a really good thing, and I think there's something different too about sharing food with one another, because you're tasting the same food.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different process, and I miss it. Here, I mean, obviously I eat with my parents, and I love my parents to death, but it's just a different kind of thing. And even when I eat with my parents, it's still not the same level as it would be in like an Asian family, I would say.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's just different.
I get that. Yeah, I don't like sharing, but that's because I'm a selfish American.
Right.
I would adapt. Like if I know I'm going to a place that is sharing based, I won't say that. But like my family always knows that I don't like sharing. So now, out of spite at restaurants where they're sort of sharing based, I'll be like, no, I'll share. I like it. I like sharing. I'll do it. Come on, let's do it. And in my head, I'll be like, I mean, I guess I'm going to do this.
Right. And I'll tell you
but
what,
I do
man.
need to prove this useless point.
I did that a few times in grad school and it was in the States, and
Then you learn to like it, though.
I felt weird about it in grad school. Like we went my TESOL cohort, we went to this really good Mediterranean restaurant and I was super stoked to they have really good chicken shawarma plate. So I was super stoked to get that. Like all week, I'd been thinking about the shawarma bowl. Right?
Don't do this again. Don't do this again to me.
All week.
I had pizza, by the way, as soon as I got home.
Oh, did you?
It was ordered on my drive home, and it was there when I got there.
Nice. But anyway, so I was dreaming. About the shawarma. I'm going to do it, and all week long, right? I would drive back to Lansing to eat this shawarma. That's how good it is, Jared. I would drive an hour there, an hour back. Anyways, so we get down, and then a couple of my grad colleagues said, why don't we order, like they had a couple different platters, why don't we just order these and then everyone can try different stuff and share. And trust me, dude, there was definitely a thought in the back of my mind, like, came here for the shawarma, but you know what, the shawarma was on one of the plates. I didn't get as much as I normally would, also because I didn't want to be that guy taking all the chicken shawarma. That would be kind of a jerk move.
Mediterranean food is another food that's commonly, like if you go to like a I don't know, any place worth its salt is usually like a very sharing situation.
But that's also more
big
Eastern.
Old plates just filled with meat,
right?
And then like big bowls of rice and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Hummus too. You're sharing that. Your garlic sauce. Yeah, it's and I think there's just something kind of nice. There's a closeness. There's an intimacy to that kind of sharing. Environment.
And it does. The family style thing really does make sense now that I say it out loud.
Right.
Because it does feel like, and then that sense of like getting up from the table and going back to the stove where your food is too.
Right.
It is that. I do like that. And that sort of the thing about family style too is there is that sort of even in a different sense than when you have like big portions like we do here in the U.S. There is sort of that sense of like this is endless. Where it's like this is just like we're like, and there's gonna be leftovers.
Oh, without a doubt.
Like this is endless. I love that. Do they do leftovers in China?
They did, but a lot of times, dude, Chinese people can eat. I was always super.
Oh, they rarely have leftovers.
They sometimes do, and then people usually take them.
Is there a different culture around not finishing your food there?
I think there it's good to finish your food.
It's sort of offensive not to.
But if you finish all of it completely, I think sometimes that can signal if someone wants to be a good host, they'll keep giving you more.
Okay,
so you leave maybe a little teeny tiny bit. I'm not sure if there's any other etiquette. I was never told, and I would say I probably had 10 to 12 would be my guess, like lunches or dinners with Chinese colleagues, or when I went into a workshop, I would sometimes go out and eat with the hosts there. And oftentimes we would actually go to the local school cafeteria because that's where the workshop was. And the food was great.
Really?
Sometimes they had it catered, but other times look, man, even those cafeteria chefs in Asia are usually pretty good cooks.
That is one thing I do not miss about
cafeteria food.
About going to work is cafeteria food. You asked me how working from home has been before we started, and I don't know if I mentioned this, but I do not miss cafeteria food because I would almost find myself eating just like if I felt like taking a break from work in the middle of the day. I was like, I mean, I don't have to eat. It's just like, and you had like two choices and they sucked. Or I could go across the street to where like the main quote unquote campus is, and even then, like there's more options, but like they're not that great.
Right.
And it was just like I feel like in general we don't do cafeterias well here in the U.S.
Yes and no.
How would you disagree?
I'm biased because
I don't think we had a great cafeteria at Albion.
Oh, it was terrible at Albion.
Like the unhealthy one was better than the healthy version they had, but the unhealthy one was still just okay.
True. I did like the little make your own pizza bar.
Yeah, but they took that away when they went healthy. But we were in the fraternity.
Yeah, we were already gone.
And they had the ready to go grilled cheese that you could get with ham too.
Yep.
But they also took those away with the pizza too when they went healthy.
Yeah. Anyways, though, I would say I would agree to disagree to some extent because I'm a little biased because MSU actually does have fairly decent cafeteria food, especially
How is
at
it
Brody.
priced?
For me, it was I think $7 or $8.
Well, that's not bad, I guess.
But see, I didn't have like a plan. Right. And sadly, when I was a grad student there, they didn't have a grad student plan that I knew of. They didn't.
But you were also on a college campus.
Right.
And if you had the time, I feel like there were a lot better choices for you, especially if you're not going to lunch with someone.
Right. But Brody was nice. And
you think it was legit. It was.
Oh no, Brody is legit. It is the biggest non-military cafeteria in the United States, Jared.
I've never even heard of that as a stat.
Yeah, Brody. Just our internet's slow here, so don't worry about it. But
Brody
Cafeteria MSU. To our listeners out there, check it out. It's ginormous.
Those are kind of overwhelming to me. I don't like that big of a cafeteria.
Right. But see, the crazy thing is, I had some friends in grad school. I won't say who because I don't want them to get in any trouble. And really, I don't think you could get in trouble. Anyways, they would go and pay for breakfast in the morning. And they would go on days when they had a shit ton of, like, maybe they had 2 or 3 papers to write. They just knew they needed to be somewhere all day, right? And, of course, they have Wi-Fi.
Oh, so they use it as, like, a
So they would go for breakfast
spot.
And chill there all day. So go for breakfast. You pay your $7 or $8 for breakfast.
So you pay just to get in?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then they would do work. And it's gigantic. So that was a really good cafeteria.
It's like bigger than a food court at a mall.
Right. But then once again, Jared, American culture, you go there and you get all these plates for you. You don't go and get a plate to share with your friends.
Right.
People
it's
don't
not
usually
for the
do
table.
That.
Do they share in college
cafeterias? I'm not sure. Sadly, I always ate at my apartment. Well, that's not true. I ate at the cafeteria on campus a few times, but it was usually when I had 20 or 30 minutes and would just go there, eat, and leave. But I think there they might also kind of take their own stuff, I guess, in a cafeteria.
But it's probably a little weirder because this is a professional setting to start sharing food with kind of strangers. It's like, we're friendly, but we're not friends.
Right, exactly. And it's also different too. Like I think I told you a few episodes ago about hot pot, right? Which is where you basically have this hot, boiling liquid, hot pot in the middle of the table, and you put different stuff in there,
like a fondue,
right? Kind of, yeah. And so that once again though goes back to the whole sharing food with one another. So yeah, it's just different. But it's a nice experience. What other things can you think of?
Teaching, school.
What about it?
Do us Westerners, do we lack respect as students? Could we shape up? Shut up! Stop having so much of an opinion.
Oh, that's an interesting one, Jared.
Or would you say that needs to go more the other way? And maybe they have too much respect for the teachers.
I'll say this.
In Eastern cultures,
I'll say this
because we're not standing up for our teachers here.
No, we are not. But I think here's the thing. I think in the East, teachers are very well respected. But I think it's more of a status respect because if you look at other countries where they really respect their teachers, it's not only status, but they're also paid very well.
Like what?
Like Scandinavia, Finland,
oh, okay.
Sweden. I'm pretty sure teachers there are paid fairly well. They're fairly well respected. I know at least, I thought it was in, I don't remember now if it was Sweden or Finland. One of those Scandinavian countries, you needed a master's to teach any school subject.
Wow.
A master's, which is not...
Like even like elementary school?
Right.
Wow.
Which is not an easy feat. I can tell you, I've been through it. It's not easy. It's doable, but I think now to myself, if I tried to do a master's and work full time, there's just no way I could do it in 2 years.
Dude, I mean, that's the constant thing going in the back of my head right now is should I get a master's? And then I'm at a point now where I can't stop working.
Right.
Really.
We did an episode a while back and we talked about grad school. We might want to revisit that topic at some point. That might be good to
probably love that.
Right. Okay. Well, maybe we can call. You know how like your mom's house they'll call in we should totally call in your dad and get. I would love to hear your dad's advice.
I mean, they both graduated from Michigan State.
Right. Well, and your parents are both very smart people.
Wow.
I know. I'm still on the fence. No, I'm just teasing. But anyway, so with education, that's a great question though, Jared. Education and I would say what the East does well is I do think that at least I would say after kindergarten. I would say like when kids really start school there in Asia, especially in China from what I witnessed, and also Indonesia when I was there and I kind of saw, I did a couple workshops at school so I could just get a peek of what school life was like there. And who knows, they could have been on their best behavior because guests were there too. Could be. But my whole point here is that I think disciplining isn't as big of an issue, and I do think that children respect the teachers more, but I think that's also because they value education more.
You don't spend as much time, and granted, you were dealing with university students in China, so you were already dealing with a higher caliber of student than you had in the previous years.
Correct.
But I imagine even at lower levels, there's less sort of like, hey, stop, like, like there's more like less babysitting you have to do.
Yeah,
it seems like.
Oh yeah, 100%. But even when I did workshops in middle schools and high schools, the kids all still seem fairly well behaved. Whereas in the Czech Republic,
China, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas in the Czech Republic and in the U.S., kids are not always so well behaved. And look, if Americans want to say, well, it's because of these kids don't have a proper upbringing in the U.S. because of whatever reason, I think you can make that argument. But I think really where it comes from is the cultural value of education. I think a lot of people over there, and even also in Europe, I think a lot of people understand and they value education.
Yeah.
Whereas in the U.S., I think we take it for granted, to be honest.
I think outside of outside of the U.S., really, I think that a lot that we do that, or excuse me, that Western cultures, because I guess I'm American. Outside of Americans, though, I'd say Western cultures do homework better.
What do you mean?
Like I feel like a lot of European countries are less focused on hammering homework in on people, and are less obsessed with making sure that people have like hours of outside assignments to do, especially in like Scandinavian countries too. I know they're not big on homework, and I'd say we are kind of an exception as far as that the Western culture goes, because we're obsessed with work. We're obsessed, like we think that just you have to hammer assignments down on people, and so kids still to this day have like hours of sort of busy work that they get assigned, especially in like elementary and middle school.
I think at least in
high school.
In Europe they don't assign as much homework because I think once again I think they really value class time. Really I think a lot of Germans I know, Austrians, Czechs, some Dutch people I know as well. A lot of what I know from their education systems from talking to them has been we really emphasize doing work and doing things in class, and anything outside of class should be to help them in the next class, right? Whereas I think a lot of homework I did in high school was definitely a lot of busy work.
In China, do they get a lot of homework?
I think
honestly,
do
you just see them studying
I think they're overworked. At least in China, from my understanding of China and Japan, and maybe even also South Korea, I could be wrong about this, but I think the children are expected to do so many things. Like I saw, I'm still on WeChat and I see posts from, old colleagues of mine and friends and different people. And this woman that, the thing is with WeChat, unless you go and delete all your contacts, you see these moments from all your contacts. So this was a woman that had interviewed me probably 3 or 4 months ago, actually, for a teaching job in China. And so I don't really know this woman that well, but, I know she's in her probably late 30s, early 40s, and has a kid. My whole reason for this, Jared, is that she posted what her kid had been up to that day. And it was just like your stereotypical tiger mom, that, the kid got up early, did 2 hours of study before they had school, went to school. This was like a special program, summer program, went to this school, summer school, for 4 or 5 hours. I don't know. I just saw a picture of the kid. I would guess like 9, 10, 11, somewhere around there. It was
like the kid with the backpack on standing outside of school or something.
Yep,
is the picture.
Exactly. Well, he was actually in his backpack walking somewhere. And I think she was saying basically he was walking to his music lesson. And I think it's great that parents
she's like
support
bragging
their
about
kids.
being a great parent.
Right. But see, that's the thing though, is I think the weird thing is when I was in China, I would ask my students, what are your hobbies? Right? And a lot of times they couldn't really give me a solid answer. What are your hobbies? A lot of times they would say maybe some things they like or some things they're interested in. But when I say, what are your hobbies? I don't mean, I like watching TV. like, okay, yes, you could argue that's a hobby, but to me, a hobby is something you really do and you're interested in, right? Like you like biking, right? Going for a bike ride. I would say that's a hobby.
I'd say cars is a hobby.
Cars
for me
is definitely
too.
a hobby for you, right? For me, music or guitar is definitely a hobby. I would say it might even be more serious than a hobby because I really love it. But either way,
But it still falls into the hobby category.
Correct.
If you were to,
correct. Whereas I had a lot of students in China. It just seems like a lot of college students, at least that I met, and these were juniors, so they were fairly busy. And I've heard that's one of the busiest years for education majors in China. But they had not really much of a social life outside of meeting up with their friends, to go eat, or study related stuff. Whereas I feel like we did some stuff in undergrad that was not really related to, college.
I rarely studied with other people in general.
Me too. Right. Me too.
I found that to be way more distracting because, especially those people that would go to the library for 6 hours. I feel like I could get the same amount of work done in an hour and a half to 2 hours if you guys weren't around.
Right. So what I would say is who regarding education, I would say Europe handles homework, I think, on a healthier level. I think there's a better school life balance in Europe. I think in Asia there's a more emphasis on the school. Because I think they realize that education in school can mean success.
Yeah.
But I think that it depends on how you define success and what you want out of life, right? If you want to be a doctor, then you better study, you better go to school, you better get your grades.
Be less concerned with mental health.
Correct. Whereas I think but once again I think this circling back, Jared. This comes back to the idea of collectivism. Right. I think a lot of people in Asian countries, they do their jobs not because they want to, but because it's a role in society. Whereas I know a lot of Americans who...
Do you think you feel that way about yourself?
Oh, 100%. There's lots of jobs I would never do. Are you kidding me? I mean, unless I really had to. Unless I literally could not find another way to make an income.
Right.
I'm sorry, but there's no way I would work at a fast food restaurant.
Sure.
After all the years of education I've had, you get used to a certain standard of living.
I guess so, but I feel do you feel like you have a duty to do your job or something like that?
Not really. I think I have a purpose, but I think a purpose and a duty are two very different things.
Because I feel like I'm definitely very much in that American mindset where it's I like my job and I feel like it fits me well, but it is definitely a means. It is definitely a means to me getting money. It's not for the greater good.
Right. Well, it's always like that funny meme when people ask, why did you apply for this job or why do you want to work for us? It's because I want to make money.
Exactly.
Yeah. I want to make money. Sure.
Yeah. And I don't feel I don't feel like I'm doing some sort of duty to society to be employed at this this is my role in society and this is how we become a great nation together by me
but that's
doing
collectivism.
This.
That's
I don't feel that way.
Different mindset.
No, I know I need to get paid. So
right, exactly.
And I can do this and get paid.
Yeah. It's just interesting though too with education because I think educational systems are very different. And I'm going to be honest, I really wish I could have spent more time in China or in Asia. And who knows, maybe I will in the future. I'm not really sure. We'll have to see.
I mean, you can definitely go back at some point.
Yeah.
Even if it's just vacation.
Right.
Or you can, you'll go on the international speech circuit at some point, I'm sure.
Untranslatable tour, world tour.
Oh, I'm coming too?
I mean, why not?
Oh, sweet.
That'd be a lot of good podcasting material.
That would be.
A lot of cool people to talk to.
Yeah.
A lot of cool
The
people
travel
to talk
podcasts are fun too.
Absolutely, yeah. And we enjoy being on the road again together, yeah. But anyways, back to East and Western cultures. So I think what we could learn from the East, though, is definitely value education and value your teachers a bit more. I think what the East could learn is... I think Western teachers that go to the East, English teachers, tend to be paid fairly well. But I think there are a lot of teachers over there who deserve to be paid more, and they're great teachers, and they don't because they don't have the same status. I'm doing air quotes here, people, for status or prestige of a Westerner, right? Because I think, once again, people view the Western education system as a good education system, especially our higher ed.
You're like a luxury good.
Right. Whereas I think I met so many amazing teachers over there in China that were Chinese, that were, national teachers that weren't, they're scraping to make ends meet.
And it's like you get taught how to teach just the same way they get taught how to teach.
Okay.
Oh, so you agree that you are a luxury good?
No, I wouldn't say I agree. I would say that our education systems are different.
Okay.
Whether or not that's worth more money, I think, it would be an interesting discussion to have, especially with administration.
I mean, they would say that yes.
Right.
I mean, I guess not the teachers. But.
Right. But I think that's a way. But I think that's also they kind of have to do that, because if you think about it, if I'm not going to make a good salary, why would I uproot my comfortable Western life, if you have a comfortable Western life, to live in Asia where you don't speak the language? There's a lot of difficulties.
But I think it is weird to think that theoretically you probably could pay the teachers more, like the domestic teachers more, if you wanted to.
And I think we could pay our teachers
and
better
invest
here in
in
the
your
States.
own teachers to a higher degree.
Right. Education itself, we need to do more education episodes. I'm realizing after us having this conversation, because there's a lot more we can unpack. Your favorite, we can unpack and we can talk about.
We'll circle back to that.
Exactly.
So we don't have a song of the pod for today.
We don't. We dropped the ball. Yeah.
Did you see that the DMX and Snoop Dogg versus?
Yeah, that was something else.
I watched the entire thing. I didn't expect to watch the whole thing, but I came in maybe like 10 minutes in, and I'm like, oh, this is entertaining. First of all, Snoop Dogg is in great performing shape.
Oh, for sure.
He could just rap all day long. Like
I think DMX could too.
DMX really? That's the vibe you got?
You didn't think so?
He seemed like he was getting a little tired on some of those songs. He clearly was not in this. Snoop Dogg looks the exact same. Like his body is like paper thin.
Right. He's
DMX,
also super tall.
DMX definitely has a little bit of a dad bod, and I feel like on some of those bars I did hear some heavy breathing.
Okay.
But he definitely did go off. He actually seemed to get better as time went on.
Yeah, I would
like closer
agree.
to the end, he really
agree.
got into it. I forgot. And listen, like I listened to a little bit of DMX, but I am a little young for him. But I forgot just how many.
A little young, bro. He was our generation.
He was like when we were in like elementary, middle school, though.
He was middle. Yeah, but Eminem was middle school too.
That's true. I guess that's true. But what I was gonna say was I forgot how many hits he had.
He had a ton.
I was like, oh, I know this song too.
Yeah, a ton. Rough Riders anthem. X gonna give it to you. All sorts of them.
It was. I think. DMX. I think won the versus in my mind, but I think Snoop was more entertaining to watch, just because Snoop is more of a character, and Snoop's demeanor is more like he's a good host.
Back.
He's a very good host too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, watch GGN.
Right.
He's a great
has a
host.
show. He does a lot of shows, so he was great to have with DMX, because DMX is not a good host.
Well, I think
no offense, DMX, but
he's gonna come after you now.
He's our performer though. Like whenever it was time to perform, like he clearly turned on. And was a great performer, but he's not a good host.
That's what's crazy about those types of people, those like performers. But I think Snoop is also a performer, just on a different level.
Yeah,
I think Snoop is a performer in the way that he tries to entertain and captivate you with like humor and
like
wit.
a host.
Yeah, right. Whereas I think DMX, it's like, here I am, you're going to listen to me.
He feels like more of an artist. He's like, I'm on or I'm off.
Right. And it's more, and I think DMX is a bit more in your face, like his music style too.
Sure. I mean, his entire genre is a little more intense.
Right.
And because Snoop, it was at first I thought it was sort of an odd pairing, but it worked. It worked, especially since they were in person. Because DMX also does not seem like he'd be great if he had to like be in front of like just like a setup by himself.
Right.
But he had no really obviously control of the setup. I think that was, but like it was just like their vibes were a great balance for the show. And I ended up watching the whole thing. I did not expect that I was going to do that.
How long is that thing again?
I think it was like 2 hours, but it was like an hour and a half of actual versus show.
Yeah, I didn't see the whole thing.
At the very end, they were just freestyling for a bit. Snoop wouldn't stop.
That's what I saw. That's the part that I saw. I saw it on
and
YouTube.
He could just go all day long.
Yeah, well, that's the crazy thing about those guys is and just the amount of creativity, without a doubt. Yeah,
that was a lot of fun. So I would say DMX won, just because I think his. I don't know. He seemed to have more like hits in there, and like his. I don't know, something about his lyrics. He seems lyrically just like, I don't know. There's more to it to me.
I think
like
with him,
I feel like I can feel it more. There's so much more in there to me.
What I think it is, let me give you the language teacher take of his lyrics real quick.
Please.
What I think it is that it's more direct. It's more, he gets to the point with his lyrics. You know what he's saying. Whereas Snoop Dogg, it's more about the wordplay. It's more about the rhythm, the way he says things.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's more, so it's different. I think with DMX, it's a different delivery. It's more of, this is what I'm going to say.
But I think, I agree with you. And I think that's why over an extended period of time, I think also DMX got better as Snoop Dogg. He didn't get worse or anything.
Right.
But he just got better because I think Snoop's flow is great, and he's a very good rapper and lyricist, but I think it kind of got old after a while because the themes are kind of just seem the same. Like it's all about pimping and hanging out with the homies,
right?
And I don't know, like I don't know. I just felt like I got more story. Like it's like you got DMX from so many different angles that you kind of forgot about. I feel like at least for me, where it's like, oh, I forgot there was this angle of his music, or like, because it's more direct and it's less about. I mean, he has a great flow, quote unquote.
Right.
But Snoop has that. You know, that's sort of part of his thing more. I would say. I don't know.
Definitely.
But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was great.
Should we pop that on the Song of the Pod playlist?
Sure. Why not?
All right, let's do it. Yeah, because I saw some of the freestyle at the end, and it was definitely something.
Yeah,
it was something else. So check that out on our Song of the Pod playlist, Untranslatable Podcast. The DMX and Snoop kind of freestyle and rap battle. It's definitely interesting. Check that out. Yeah, absolutely. So just to recap, I would say this episode, at least our main segment, could be broken down into like 3 or 4 main points. I would say, Jared. I would say number 1 is the idea of individualism and collectivism. I think there are good parts of both of those that the East and the West can learn from one another.
Sure, of course.
You know, I think that's the beauty of life, is you can take bits and pieces of certain things that you like, and kind of leave out the things you don't like. So collectivism, individualism. I would say food sharing is a big thing in the East that I think could be a great thing in the West when we get, especially in the U.S., when we get a better handle on things.
I meant to ask you, how do you feel about food waste in China versus the United States, or Western versus Eastern cultures? I don't know. That's so broad.
I couldn't tell you anything about statistics, like who wastes more.
But I mean,
food.
just from what you witnessed when you went to, you said they tend to eat almost everything.
Yeah,
there.
I would say there's probably less food waste.
That's why I didn't ask about that.
At least in China. But yeah, and I think over there too, people, because you share food more food gets eaten. Right? If you have this mentality of this is my food, don't touch it, don't eat it, right? Then you'll waste it. I mean,
we do sort of have less of appreciation for food here in the United States. It's so easy to get. We're so disconnected from that process.
Right. Well, I think it's because a lot of people in the U.S., a lot of people our age, myself included, not really you, but myself included, we don't cook, and I don't really enjoy cooking. I
mean, I cook, but I still get meats from sources that I'm sure are not sure. I mean, I know are like, just factory farmed meats and stuff. So I'm still just as much part of the problem, where it's like, I don't know. It's just, and it's not even just a factory farming or not thing. It's just an appreciation for food in a sense where you're less likely to waste it. I feel like we're not as concerned with wasting food. Going to a restaurant, eating half of it, than just being like, no, I don't want to take it in a box, and then they just throw it away. Like I feel like that's not that weird here. Where in a lot of other cultures, that would be very like, whoa, you're just gonna throw away all that food,
right? Exactly.
And it was like, yeah, it's fine. What I don't want it. I'm done. I'll get food later. It's just like a very different connection.
Exactly. Well, and I think it's also people in a lot of Asian cultures, to me, seem to really value eating with one another. It's a time to relax a little bit, talk, and here, I feel like we just have a different approach to eating sometimes. Sometimes I feel like I don't want to eat with somebody because I want to eat quick and get it over with so I can go finish whatever work I need to get done.
At my house, we definitely have to make a point to eat together, where it's like we can't go just separate to eat food. We have to actually still sit at a table.
Exactly. So anyway, collectivism and individualism, sharing food and not sharing food. Not that I think you should always have to share your food.
Sure.
Sometimes it's nice to enjoy something to yourself. And then, as you mentioned, education. I think in the East, there's a lot more respect for educators, and I don't think there are as many disciplinary problems. I mean, look, at the end of the day, yes, children will be children. I'm sure, nothing's perfect, but I think, just the role of teachers is a little different in Asian countries and in Western countries. So keep that in mind. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Jared, regarding our what the West could learn from the East?
I think you covered it. I think we covered it. I'm good. Please.
So great. All right. Well, then we thank you all so much for listening today. You can let us know what you thought at untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com. We'd appreciate any feedback you have. Check out our Instagram page, Untranslatable Podcast, for pictures of this beautiful day, for clips and all sorts of other great stuff. Check out our YouTube channel if you want to see my flowery, pretty shirt today, or if you want to just see where we are or watch us, check us out on YouTube, Untranslatable Podcast. And please, Songs of the Pod, we know you'll love them. Check them out. It's a playlist on there as well. Lastly, 5-star reviews on iTunes and Stitcher. Let us know how we can make this podcast better for you. So as we say here at the Untranslatable Podcast, dziękujemy, muchas gracias, shisha, and do svidania. Play that music, Jared. Play that music. All right. Yeah, it's not as hot today as I thought it would be.
No, it's pretty good.
So far, so
it's
good.
11:30 already.
Yep, hour and a half in, not too bad.
I kind of want to start coming over even earlier.
I think you could if you want.
Like
I'm
I'd
okay with it.
I'd be okay with. I'd be okay with getting here like.